Back for Hawk Talk this week. Tom Miller from the Grand Forks Herald back in studio again. North Dakota coming off a 3-point victory against Abilene Christian to move to 5-3 on the season. And Tom, the way North Dakota was able to salt that game away, holding the ball the last almost 8 minutes of the game. Time of possession's been a strength. North Dakota's had it almost 35 minutes per game compared to opponents who've had it 25 minutes per game. Not sure that was going to be in the script this year, but it's really worked out.
Yeah, it's definitely a credit to, some of the offensive pieces as well as offensive play caller Danny Freund. I think he called a nice game down the stretch there that allowed UND to just kind of slowly move the football. A couple of 3rd and 1s with Quincy Vaughn, who's in his career really proven that 3rd and 1 he can be really effective in that role. And like you said, when you give up a score with almost 8 minutes to go, it almost surprised me as that clock started to run away. You kind of started to get the feeling, they're getting close to finishing this whole thing off. It was really impressive.
Yeah, and Tyler Hoosman, you can't say enough about what he has done as well as a guy that finds a way to churn out and get extra yards after contact. That's also been really important as they've been able to string together first downs and also a 47% third down conversion rate as well. Turnovers, I know it's something that the Hawk defense have been working real hard at it. They were able to get a couple of big turnovers, momentum-changing turnovers from Malachi Buckner and Caden Coppin, each with their first interceptions in North Dakota uniforms. That really was the difference, I think, in the game on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. North Dakota offensively played clean, and ACU wasn't able to do the same. North Dakota's just hadn't gotten a fumble, still hasn't got a fumble since Nebraska, but then hadn't had an interception since Northern Arizona. So that was really a huge focus going into this week. Able to get 2, this last week is going to be big moving forward to try to continue to grow that number, because it was just far too low in the national statistics to expect that to be able to continue and you still be able to pick up victories. So, I thought North Dakota maybe should have been able to be handed 3 turnovers, but there are some opinions out there on that whole Jason Coley strip sack. I think it should have been 3 turnovers.
Yeah, it should have. I would agree. It certainly looked like a fumble. Quarterback pulls it back in. The call is what it is. The rule is what it is. Didn't ultimately end up hurting North Dakota, but made things certainly more interesting maybe than it had to. In this position, going into November, controlling essentially your own destiny for a postseason berth, 3 games, 2 of them against other Dakota schools. I think going into the season, I think anybody, whether you're a UND fan, whoever, would have taken this position to be in, to at least give yourself a chance here to be a postseason team down the stretch, ranked number 21 in the latest poll this week.
Yeah, I think this is about where a lot of, people picked North Dakota to be. Some people picked North Dakota to really struggle through that opening stretch, especially, maybe there was some overvalue to Northern Iowa, certainly to Missouri State. Now, Northern Iowa is coming back around to making that victory look a little bit sweeter. But there was real concern about how you could come out of that stretch when you also have Northern Iowa and Missouri State in that stretch. They expected to be, pretty tough opponents. So for UND to still, be within that playoff picture at this time of year, the next couple of weeks are going to be really important here to avoid any sort of slip up. And it's certainly 2 teams that have struggled to maintain that success, but dangerous nonetheless.
Yeah, and you talked about going to Indiana State as the next opponent, as the next team going on the road. North Dakota's proven they can go on the road and pick up tough wins. Did it at Youngstown, did it at Northern Arizona, 2 games that came right down to the fourth quarter. Indiana State, I think, a team that you look at their record and think, man, but the way they're playing, they've played almost everybody they've gone up against very tough, with the exception of last weekend against South Dakota State. Yeah,
I've watched Indiana State a number of times. I feel like this year it's been where UND's kind of had that mid-afternoon game, and so I've been able to sneak in some Indiana State watching before that. And, they've got some dynamite weapons. I think the big question for me is going to be coming out of that South Dakota State game. 1, where's your emotional level? Because going to Brookings and getting beat like that, I think, can be tough. I think they're fortunate to be at home to bounce back. But 2 will be a quarterback, whether or not, Kate Chambers has taken over the starting quarterback role here, but looked like he was maybe banged up against the Jackrabbits. So it's going to be interesting to see. Gavin Screws has played previously this season, so they're not going to be completely new at quarterback, but that's got to change the dynamic depending on who's going to be good to go at quarterback.
Yeah, and again, another new opponent that North Dakota has not faced before. That's the other unique part about this. It is a very different venue there at Memorial Stadium. There's only stands on one side, probably not going to be a great atmosphere. You have to create your own energy if you're North Dakota when you head out to Terre Haute as well.
And we've talked about that from time to time. North Dakota's has a history with that. At least its coaching staff does. I remember we've had these conversations going to Pocatello at times. Playing at Idaho State. Sometimes it was about creating that energy from within, and that might have to be the case here this week. I don't know the exact level of support the Sycamores have, but obviously at where they're sitting at this season, fans showing up aren't thinking playoffs are in the line. So
yeah, and Sycamore is certainly a team. Kurt Mallard, credit to them. Their kids continue to play hard every week, even though the chips have been down, and they've lost some close ball games, especially at home against Northern Iowa and Illinois State as well. Should be a fun matchup. This is all you can ask for. Last flight trip of the season. Appreciate you stopping by, Tom.
Absolutely, should be fun.